The Omicron variant is confirmed to be in Colorado, and our Connor McHugh sat down with infectious disease expert Dr. Michelle Barron to understand what we need to know about this newest form of coronavirus.
What is the main concern with this variant at this point?
I think obviously the concern is that it's going to transmit better than Delta and potentially overtake Delta. I think the bigger question is, does it make you sicker or is it milder? In which case it may actually be to our benefit. But I think those are things that we just don't know.
With this being on the top of everyone's mind, should this be the focus right now, or should we remain focused on Delta?
I would remain focused on Delta. It will take several weeks, if not months, before we, I think, fully appreciate all the nuances of Omicron. There have been other variants that we had in the news and we sort of got excited about and actually went nowhere. So we do know Delta is here. We know Delta continues to cause cases. If you look across the United States, they're going up. And we're in the holiday season. So I think the risk of transmission is just really, really high. So, right in front of us, we know what's causing issues, what may cause issues in the future. It's certainly something we need to be aware of, but it's the here and now is probably more important.
Obviously, this Omicron variant is new. We have a lot to learn. But what do we know about how transmissible it is at this point?
Again, this is limited data out of South Africa. It does appear to have overtaken Delta in terms of the strain that's causing their infections, but it's still a pretty small sample size that they've looked at. They haven't sequenced all of the different ones circulating. And so it does look like it's going to be at least as transmissible as Delta, maybe more so, but again, we just don't have enough numbers to be able to tell you that definitively.
What do we know about the severity of the symptoms with this variant?
I think that's the biggest question that we don't have really good optics on. Some of the initial reports out of South Africa suggested it was very mild, that the individuals that they had tested had runny nose, sore throat, which some people have with Delta too. I think we really have to have some better, again, data points on this. And people need to remember it takes a few days, if not weeks, before people actually have complications related to this. So I think it'll be an evolving story in terms of what the severity index ends up being.
Do we know how effective the current vaccines are against this variant?
We don't. That's the other big question. The Omicron does have a lot of mutations on the spike protein, which is the area that most of the vaccines have targeted for our immune system to attack. And so there is some concern that, again, there's going to be some issues with this. We had similar concerns with Delta, which ended up not being a problem. So I think, again, there is a lot of work being done to understand this better, and we just don't know yet.
If this variant is in fact more transmissible, or if its symptoms are more severe, what does that mean for us?
It means that we potentially are going to continue to see hospitalizations and obviously have people becoming ill. I think we could probably predict that even without Omicron coming into play, only because the holiday season is here. People are traveling, people are gathering. And so I think as optimistic as some want it to be that, we're done by January, we'll be done with COVID and all done. We're not done. We probably won't be done for some time.
Should this variant change our approach to handling this pandemic and how we're keeping ourselves safe?
No, you should still be doing the same kind of things. You've got to get vaccinated. If you haven't been vaccinated, get a booster. If you haven't got your booster, masking, limiting social gatherings, cleaning, all the things we've talked about over and over and over again. I know it sounds not very exciting because we want just a magic pill for this to make it all go away. It's not happening. Those are the things that work, still work.
We talked earlier about how Delta is the dominant variant. Yesterday, state officials said it's like 99.9% of cases in the state of Colorado right now. What are the chances? What's the likelihood that Omicron could take over as a dominant variant? What would have to happen for that to be the case?
It's a really good question. And I think obviously the transmissibility is part of it. That's what allowed Delta to really take hold. Even though we had a really good vaccination rate, there was still, 30% not vaccinated. And that's still what we're seeing a lot of. So I think that's going to be the important question is, does it affect, will there be breakthrough infections in those that are vaccinated? Is it transmitted very quickly? Can you get reinfected if you've had it before? We know that can already happen. I think there's a lot of variables in play that it's like a horse race, right? So it looks like it has a potential in terms of potentially beating out Delta. but there's a lot of steps along the way that it actually has to take advantage of to do so.
And lastly, do we have the right tools to monitor this and track this so that we can stay ahead of it?
Absolutely. Actually, Colorado has been ahead of the game in all of this, and that the state allotted a lot of resources early on to tracking all these variants. And I don't know if people will remember, but we were one of the first to recognize Delta was here. And so, and some of the UK Alpha variant was also detected here very early on. And so they committed to those resources to make sure that if it's here, they're looking, and they will announce, I'm sure, when we have the next case.
Thank you for your time, Dr. Barron. Is there anything else you'd like to add or anything else you think Coloradans should know before I let you go?
Just that flu is also starting to uptick. And so as we're we're focusing all our energy on COVID, which obviously is important. Flu is starting to circulate. We anticipate that increasing hospitalizations as well. And so get your flu shot in addition to your COVID shot.
We have much more information on where you can get your coronavirus vaccine at cbsdenver.com.